Hey there folks, welcome back fellow adult collectors. David Eon and the gorgeous Miss Lady Pop Hunter. Actually she is, isn't she? Look at that face. It kills me. It just kills me. Anyway, just having a quick discussion here, and this is something that I've been asked to talk about a few times, and I've alluded to it also. Whether or not the adult collectors toy market, action figures, statues, toys, so on and so forth, is oversaturated. And I mean, there's kind of almost no discussion. I think it's pretty obvious that it is. I think the toy market is very oversaturated. I think that they've long since figured this out. They figured this out since the 2000s, because you remember, especially when you're talking about action figures, which both of us are big action figure collectors, especially Masters of the Universe for you, that the sweet spot is between 1964 to 1994. That 30-year pocket is really the golden era of action figures, because 64, starting with G.I. Joe, coining the phrase even, until about 94, when interest in it for children started to wane, and they started being more interested in electronic equipment, electronic video games, yeah. And right around 2000, somebody kind of figured that out. They figured us out. And it's created a monster, and our interest in pop culture, you, me, everyone watching, adult collectors who are watching, our interest in pop culture and our nostalgia are kind of feeding that beast.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're really kind of just feeding that monster.
Yeah.
All of us are responsible for that.
Well, what you notice is the toy makers, they're not making new toys. When I say new toys, I mean like new characters, new lines. They're reaching back into the past and redoing those figures, even to the packaging. Because if like you have the reissue Transformers, the reissue of the Masters of the Universe, the reissues of G.I. Joe and Thundercats, is all the same packaging, just a newer version of it. Because they know if the toy makers were to make a brand new package of any one of those things, nobody's going to buy it.
Yeah, and new figures are peg warmers, because that's the thing. Like the Mattel is a good example of that. Mattel, when they make the wrestling figures, which ones do people buy?
Yeah, they buy the older characters.
It's all classic characters.
Yeah, and now they're even reaching back into older toy lines. Like they did the crossover with Ghostbusters. They did a crossover with
Masters
of the Universe. They probably will do Ninja Turtles. Well, Ninja Turtles did.
They did it already.
They did it already.
But Playmates did it, not Mattel.
Yeah, Playmates crossed over with the wrestlers.
With the wrestlers.
And the Ghostbusters.
That's right. It's just a lot of those crossovers they do in a crossover with Batman.
Yeah.
Who is that? NECA did that, right?
I'm not
Batman
sure.
Ninja Turtle crossovers?
I'm not sure. I've seen it, but I don't know who. But if they did it with the older Turtles, it might be fine. But they did it with the new one. And the new Turtles aren't really taking off like the older Turtles are. You know, the style, the mold, or whatever.
Everybody goes back. Basically, everybody goes back. And then you have like massive oversaturation of particular lines. Star Wars is a great example of that.
Yeah.
I remember Disney even said they were going to cut it off for a while in 2018 and shelved a few projects because of what was being deemed at the time Star Wars withdrawal. Because there was just so much coming out. Now this new movie came out and a lot of people are pissed at it. I haven't seen it, but I've been hearing a lot of buzz, a lot of complaints about what they did with the plot in it, and people are angry. Although The Mandalorian seems to be doing all right.
Yeah.
But then this means more figures, more toys, more counter-franchising, more third-party franchising, and there's already too much.
Yeah.
And the ones that everybody wants they can't afford, which are the original vintage ones, but then they say, oh, well, here's an alternative. Well, there's too many alternatives. There's too many.
Yeah, because then you have to figure out, well, whose line do I want to whose line do I want to buy? Do I want to get this toy maker, that toy maker? Do I want this scale, that scale? It's just a lot involved, and it's way, way too expensive.
Yeah, and since they know they get their hooks into us, it's expensive. It is it's very expensive. Hot Toys is a great example of that, because they're considered to be the highest end of the action figure collecting, the 1/6 scale Hot Toys figures and other 6 scale figures. Many of these are actually not very well constructed. I've done plenty of unboxing videos. If you remember the one where I unboxed the Neon Tech Iron Man, just posing him, his arm came off my hand. Right, and I kept it in the video. I was like, "You see this, right?" You know, I was able to put it back together, but should that happen for a figure that they charged nearly $400 for? Thank God I was able to trade for the thing. It was new. It's not like someone else had even touched it. I was the first one to lay hands on it. But I mean, think about that. That's expensive, and then a lot of them, they don't retain value the way that you think that they do.
Yeah, they don't.
There's certain ones that do really well. Hot Toys, Mezco, as an example, but most of them sell for less than their original retail value aftermarket.
Yeah, and then it depends on the character, the line.
Yeah.
You know, because some figures
limited
go up.
editions.
Yeah, some figures go up. Others in the same line, just a different character, might not take off.
Yeah.
So.
And it could be a perfectly decent figure, and people are just like, meh, you know, enough.
Yeah.
And sometimes they knock it out of the park, like they did with Popeye, talking about Mezco still.
Yeah.
That was a very popular figure, and they did a great job on it.
And they did another one.
Yeah, they've got another. Yeah, don't remind me, because it's hard to keep up with. And when you're talking a minimum of $80 investment per figure, plus shipping. Okay, never forget that postage. Then, if they're going to put one out every week, that'll kill you. Yeah. That'll kill your wallet if you don't really have the disposable income for it.
Yeah.
You know, I trade for a lot of what I have. There's only so far you can get with that.
Yeah, you can only trade so much.
Yeah, one of the beauties of the older stuff, like I was saying, you know, that pocket, or that 30-year pocket, is that most of the toy lines, unless you're talking about the big 5, 80s toy lines as an example, which is what, Ninja Turtles, Transformers, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, and Masters of the Universe are the ones that everybody's looking for. But most of the rest of the toy lines that came out during that period, there's only a handful of items, and then that's it. Yeah. And they never went back to it, like Brave Star, like Karate Commandos, like Rambo. What you see is what you get, and if they could go back, Sectars, Coleco's Sectars. I know that there's a company that is remaking Sectars in like G.I. Joe size, but you know, you're not going to see much else from Sectars. Yeah, that's one of the things I like about the older lines, is that outside of the big 5, you can go back and you might actually have a chance of finishing that line. Like I have the Remco McDonald's. There's only 7 figures in that set and 1 play set, and that's it. Yeah. You could do that. But if they were to come out with something McDonald's now, if Funko did it, and you get the set, you 7 figures, I can do that, and then there'll be 7 more. There'll be flocked ones. There'll be different color variations. There'll be special editions where they're holding a thing of fries.
Yeah,
you know,
a thing of fries, a shake, hamburger, a milkshake.
It'll never end.
It'll come with the whole meal kit.
There'll be a Freddie Funko wearing a McDonald's shirt.
Yeah.
There'll be no end to it. And a lot of people are completists, and that'll kill them.
Yeah. I mean, because I know I look for a lot of the older figures, and they're hard to find. Like, that's you true. Can always find the same ones, but once you get those, you try to find some different ones. And if you look on eBay, they're not there, and then you have to reach out to like Facebook groups or some other Macari. I think that's the name of it.
Macari.
Yeah, Macari. They're pretty good. Sometimes you'll find little odds and ends there. But then the people think, oh man, nobody else on eBay has this, so I can make the price really ridiculous. So you always have that to deal with.
Yeah, but I just really believe that all of these companies, I mean, they're wise to us. They figured this out since the 2000s. And when you invest in that, you could really get hurt.
Yeah.
Star Wars is a great example of that. From all the figures they produced in the 90s, where are they? They're all in the bins. When you go to the conventions, they're all in the underneath for like $250 a piece now.
Yeah.
Playmates Star Trek. I remember when some of those figures were getting up over $100 a piece because of the stupid number that was printed on the bottom of their foot. Mego collectors, I'm talking to you, because the modern Mego figures have that number on there, and they're like, oh, I want to find the low numbers. Don't do that. Don't worry about what numbers printed on that figure, because Playmates did that. People would pay a fortune for figures that were under numbers under 1,000, under 100, so on. All of those figures, they're in the bins next to the Star Wars now. And if you wanted to complete a set, Playmates made over 420 figures, plus play sets. Where would you put them all? So that falls out of the big five again. That's why I say some of these smaller lines I kind of like better, because if I had absolutely everything that G.I. Joe did, I wish I did. Most of my G.I. Joe collection's gone. Where would I put them?
I don't know.
Where would I put them, especially with foreign variations?
That's ridiculous. I mean, for me, I collect a lot of the newer stuff because, like the original Thundercats, I'm not interested in, but I am interested in the remakes. Masters of the Universe is the only original stuff that I do collect, but I do get the remakes of that. Ninja Turtles, I only like the remakes. I'm not interested in the originals. So...
Well, you did have an interest in some of the
some of
core
them,
characters.
Yeah, but not all of it. Because I've seen people and they have all of the originals, and they're cool, but I'm not interested in that. So for me, finding it is pretty easy, and the prices are not so bad.
Yet.
But if yet. So I get them now while they're still cheap. Because if I went over and tried to get all of the originals of this and that, I'll pull all my hair out probably.
Yeah, and then there's the issue of like artificial demand.
Yeah.
With modern figures, we're seeing that right now with the Bebop and Rocksteady 2-pack from NECA that you can't find at a Target to save your life.
No. Or on the website.
Yeah.
So I wish they didn't have store exclusives like that. I wish they would just put it out in all stores or just sell it online. But
I've been hearing collectors saying that a lot recently too. Like exclusive is getting to be like a dirty word.
Yeah, it makes you really not want to collect.
Convention exclusives and store exclusives.
Yeah.
They're so freaking difficult to find sometimes. And God forbid you live overseas. You know, you have a hard enough time finding the regular figures, let alone exclusive ones. And then people will charge through the nose for it. And then the price takes a nosedive.
Yeah, and then you get the shipping. Yeah. And then you have the WWE crossover, Master of the Universe crossover. You were finding them online for like $60 a figure, and they were, I think, $14 or $15 on Walmart. And, I watched them, and they started going down, and then suddenly they came up on the Walmart website, and then people were able to get it. So now the prices on eBay are starting to go down. But the people that bought it originally, it's like sometimes you just need to wait.
Yeah.
Just have some patience. They go down. So.
And I had mentioned Hot Toys earlier, because not all of those retain value either. And a great example of that is the Sideshow 6-scale figures, because Sideshow was doing them for a while first. And they did the Terminator, they did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they did Hogan's Heroes.
Oh.
Yeah, they did a lot of stuff like that. They did James Bond. Those figures, you can find them so cheap now. I feel bad for the people that paid retail or above, and now they're like in the $25 to $50 range. Because the next best thing came along, and that's one of the problems with new items too. Next best thing comes along, and then people just kind of, they forget about it.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
that's when you have some people that are just into everything.
Yeah.
You know, instead of honing in on what you really like and just concentrating on that, they dabble in everything. And because of that, then they run around trying to get this, trying to get that, trying to complete this set. And they have a hard time, and then they get frustrated and end up just selling off everything because they got so tired with it.
Been seeing a lot of that with Funko Pop collectors the last couple of years. They feel so overwhelmed with just because Funko never stops. They are the king of oversaturation.
Yeah.
They'll remake the same one and just keep painting it, and you think you're done. You are not done. Oh well, I'll do it. I'll just get Pennywise and not get the other figures. How many of them are there? Like
Yeah.
25, 30 of them now?
It's a lot. I know I didn't get the second wave. I
And
did
there
get
will be
all
more.
of the first wave Pennywise. But I didn't get the second wave. And I started to, but I was like, what's the point?
But Funko is great for artificial demand models.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what they do best.
Yeah.
And it's backfired for them in a bunch of places, but they've got enough product out that they can keep rolling for now. I mean, it remains to see how that'll be carried out. Legends, Marvel Legends is another good one.
Oh.
I've heard a lot of complaints about them because they recast everything. How many times can you buy the same figure repainted?
Well, that's everybody because not only Marvel Legends.
The wrestlers do it.
Well, wrestlers do it. I stopped collecting wrestlers because
You can't keep up.
no. But how many times you showed on Sideshow they made Batman? And how many Batmans? How many
Batman?
Harley Quinns and Jokers?
Or
You know,
Deadpool. Deadpool's another one that
Deadpool
they
is
just beat
another
to
one.
death.
That did, and Iron Man. They just make a lot of them, and it's like, pick one. So, I mean, I know people have their tastes, and some might look different than others, but then again, like we said before, you have some people that are completists, like they just like Batman. So then they buy every Batman figure that's out there. And,
And even that can get expensive. See, back in the day, when Masters of the Universe were being made, it was only Mattel or a foreign subsidiary. You know, if it was, if you were after G.I. Joe, well, you just had Hasbro or whatever. If you were in another country, it was Palitoy. If you were in the UK, you know, whatever other country was licensed through Hasbro. So it's not like if you're talking about Star Wars back in the day, Star Wars, just Kenner was making action figures, basically. But now, it's not just Kenner, is it? It's, well, there is no more Kenner, it's Hasbro. Hasbro bought them out. But it's not just Hasbro, it's everybody. Everybody that goes to Hasbro or Disney or whoever and wants to break in on that franchise can start cranking stuff out. And it gets overwhelming. It's like, okay, which ones do you want? Do you want the black series? Do you want the regular carded series? Do you want the Hot Toys? Do you want the Disney die-cast series? And on and on and on.
Yeah.
It's too, you know, you can't do all of them. And then you end up with these poor guys. I've seen a lot of collectors showing their Star Wars collections, and they've got the black series figures. All the boxes ways. And all you can see is the numbers going down the row because they're in there, but you can't see you can't see the toys. They can't even display them because there's so many.
Yeah.
And I think that's terrible. Especially Funko Pops too. How many Pop tours have we seen? And all the boxes are turned sideways. You can't see them.
No. I mean, you just got to get figure out what you want to collect and just collect that. Just say, okay, this is the one like Transformers. I get the Walmart reissue, and I'm happy.
She don't even want them all.
No, I just want four characters from Transformers I always liked, and those are the 4 characters I'll buy. Period. I'm not getting anybody else because I don't want that, you know. And that'll make your life a lot easier if you just stick to the things you like or the characters you know or remember. Just stick to those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, like I said, they got their hooks into us.
Yeah.
And it's a big bubble. And
Mhm.
like most bubbles, eventually it's going to burst sooner or later. um, and we just have to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen when people get tired of it and they just stop buying. They stop buying the new stuff as it comes out.
Mm.
And a lot of times people also, this is another topic of discussion, but
Mm.
they buy newer stuff because they can't afford the older stuff.
Mhm.
But then the amount you invest in the newer stuff,
Mhm.
you could have bought the older stuff anyway.
Yeah.
When you really stop and you think about it, it's like, because if you could get a vintage figure, when you look at the prices, depending upon what you're interested in, like take Bravestar, some of the figures from Bravestar are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Some of them not so bad.
Mhm.
You know, so you could buy a new figure of something for $50 to $80, or a vintage Bravestar, and start a collection of those.
Mhm.
But the Bravestars aren't likely to lose their value.
Right. The older stuff is
Yeah,
not likely
older
to
stuff isn't
lose
likely
their
to
value.
lose their value, and people are like, "Oh, well, it isn't about value." But you'd be singing a different tune, if you were the same guy who bought the Hot Toys Jor-El for 250 plus shipping, and then now you can buy it on eBay for like $80, $90. So you'd be singing a much different tune if that was you, or if you were the guy that got the who got the Chase Pennywise.
Yeah.
Remember when it was all the way up to 160 or something?
Mhm.
And how much is it now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably like $30 to $50 range.
Yeah, because I remember when I bought mine, it was like $20.
It that value, it does matter.
It does matter.
It really does, and you can
I mean,
deny
it only
but
matters if you care. Like, and when I say that, I mean this.
Mhm.
I have some Funko Pops. I don't collect them anymore, but the ones I have, I'm not getting rid of.
Mhm.
I have some. I don't know the value of hardly any of them, but the ones that I have, I want. You know what I mean? I want those. I don't care what the price is. I like them and I'm going to keep them. So, you might buy a figure, and to you, it matters, it means something. You probably bought it for $50 and it probably did go down, but you like it.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters to me. Like, some of those Super 7s are cheaper than when you paid for them originally. But I'm fine with that because I like the figures.
Sure.
I like the figure. I like the character. So I'm not going to get mad about it. I'm happy that I was able to get it. I'm happy that Super 7 made it available. Unlike with NECA, they don't make it available. Now they make it available only to Target. But they don't make it
Well, they got them at
readily available.
They got them at FYA too, but FYE treats them like dirt. Their figures are a mess.
Yeah. So I think collecting is all about what you like, not so much about value.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
it does play into it though. It's kind of hard to ignore it. I know it's good to have that attitude. But
that's my attitude on everything.
True. Well, it is, but it's hard to ignore. Like, I mean, I feel bad for the guys that invested a lot in starting lineup figures when Kenner was doing the starting lineup sports figures. Because, man, they used to get crazy prices back in the day. Or the original Todd McFarlane Spawn line.
Spawn. Yeah, you can see Spawn everywhere.
They're worthless now. Absolutely
Yeah.
worthless. The Kenner starting lineups, we've frequently seen them in dollar bins. But, when I used to sell those, and I could get 80, 100 a piece for them, because people couldn't find them on the pegs. Kenner didn't make very many. But now nobody cares about them. It's like, what about this poor guy who spent like hundreds and thousands on his collection and now it's worth like $50? It's like a stock market crash. He's got to be kicking himself at some point.
Again, to me, if that's what you like, so what? You know what I mean? That's my attitude. It might be the wrong one, but
No, I mean,
but if I bought, I mean, I know what starting lineup is. If I bought starting lineup and I bought the players, because it was only basketball, right?
no, they did all the
Oh,
sports.
well,
They did soccer,
if it
everything.
was the players that I liked, and I paid retail $10 for them, and they're worth $1 now, I don't care because I have the figures and the players that I like.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Now, I don't feel bad for people like those Ninja Turtles. They go to Target and they buy all the Bebop and Rocksteady for $50, and with the intentions of selling it for $200.
Yeah.
When the price dropped, I don't feel bad for those people at all. I'm happy for them because they shouldn't have went out and bought all of the
That's
figures.
a different story.
Well, yeah, but still, you know, those people I don't feel bad for. I don't know. I just, to me, it's like buy the things that you like, the things that make you happy, that make you reminisce and remember good times. If the value falls, so what? I mean, does it still bring a smile on your face? Remind you of better times, or you know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about because that's how it is with some of my toy lines. I mean, the certain toys and figures I have, they don't have a vintage ones. They don't have a huge value, you know, per se, but it's like it means something to me. So like I've got the old the Playmobil King Arthur, the Knights Deluxe set over there because I had one as a child, and it's probably not worth a lot of money, but it means something to me. So you know, I get where you're coming from with that. It's not,
Yeah.
but I'm not talking about necessarily investing in toys for the purpose of like rolling it over or whatever.
Right.
You know, I just meant that like if you went and you overpaid or paid a lot for something and then it tanked,
Yeah.
that could be upsetting.
Yeah.
to
Now
some
I can see
people.
if you bought an aftermarket figure and you paid like ridiculous price and then it went down. Okay, yeah, I can say, yeah, I feel bad for you because you should have waited, or you know, but
Yeah, because that's kind of what I'm alluding to.
oh, okay, I
Is-
didn't understand.
That's all right. No, because there's to try to complete sets on modern stuff. People often will pour a lot of extra money into what they're trying to do,
Yeah.
and it could backfire on them.
Yeah.
You know, they might end up kicking themselves later. But bottom line, anyway, back to the point, as we went sideways there,
Yeah.
is that yeah, it's absolutely oversaturated. They know it. Statues too, and
Yeah.
you know, statues, those are really expensive. They can, some of them are cheap, but I mean a lot of them,
You can get
if you want,
$4,000-$5,000 for some of them statues.
yeah, like Prime One Studios Optimus Prime with
Yeah.
the jetpack, that thing is like what, $3,400 something.
Yeah, something
Retail,
like that. Yeah.
it gets so expensive.
And that's one that probably won't go down. And that's definitely not going to be on their clearance list. So you're going to expect to pay ridiculous amounts of money for
Yeah.
it.
But these companies have all figured it out. They're all vying for our attention.
Yeah.
They're all trying to come out with the next best thing, and that puts them into a position of overproduction. They make too much and too many different variations, too many different scales,
Yeah.
different repaints, different packaging, different companies making the same series.
Yeah.
And
So-
it's just, it gets so confusing. It's, and you know, G.I. Joe kind of disappeared. I'm almost kind of glad that they did.
Yeah.
You know, they'll be back, because when they're talking about making a Snake Eyes movie, but
Oh, are they?
movie figures for G.I. Joe collectors, they don't quite count.
That
It
means.
doesn't fit into the core
Uh-huh.
of like the traditional 12-inch figure or a raw. For some reason, it just doesn't feel the same. There are certain areas of Joe collecting, like if it's not original Fighting Man or it's another discussion altogether. Again, but if it's not the America's Movable Fighting Man, or the Adventure Team, or your UK counterpart, or if it's not the Raw 3 3/4 inch figures, because they've done other stuff, it's kind of like it just doesn't exist. Like G.I. Joe Extreme. Show me a G.I. Joe Extreme figure collector. Where is he? You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that's been done that people, it was hype and faded away, and movie figures often tend to fall into that category.
Yeah.
From Joe, anyway.
Yeah.
But
That's it.
is it?
I think so.
We go on long enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Yeah. Do you think it's completely oversaturated? Do you agree with us? Do you have any examples? You can tell us about it in the comments section down below. Please do give the video a thumbs up. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you're new. Find us on Facebook. You can see the link to our Facebook group book down below.
Group book.
Facebook group. Face group book. Had a little dyslexia moment.
Yeah.
Down below, you can come and join our group. Find us on Instagram, Open by Chance on Instagram, and watch out for our upcoming Patreon project. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.